The Stonecutter, a traditional Japanese folk tale. Long ago in Japan, there lived a stonemason, a man who cut stones from the mountain and the earth and chiseled and shaped them into things and made things with concrete and cement. He was good at his job and always had enough work to earn enough for his family's necessities. They lived in a small house. They had enough to eat. But they certainly were not rich, and there were no luxuries. They wore plain clothes and ate simple meals. The stonecutter dreamed always as he worked of having just a little bit more in life, of not always being covered in stone dust, not constantly having nicks and cuts on his hands and arms, and of his wife and daughter having just one nice fancy set of clothes. Their small, simple house was at the foot of a mountain on the outskirts of the village. Legend spoke of a windy spirit of the mountain that granted wishes to the just and the needy, but the stonecutter didn't believe it, as the mountain spirit had never once answered his prayer for a breeze on a hot day. One day, he was contacted by a wealthy merchant who wanted stone tiles for courtyard and baths. When the stonecutter delivered the tiles he'd made, he saw the luxury in which the merchant lived. He smelled the abundant food in the kitchens and saw important people coming and going to meet with the merchant. He saw the merchant's family dressed in finery. This merchant is wealthy and powerful, thought the stonecutter. His life is luxurious and easy. He looked at his dust-covered hands, pushing a rickety wagon filled with stone tiles. He was jealous of the merchant's wealth and life. His mind spun with the jealousy and envy all the way home. As he pushed his empty wagon into the rickety shed, he said, "I wish I could be a wealthy merchant." To his great surprise, he suddenly became the merchant. He looked up, and his house was a huge and clean mansion. His wife walked out the door suddenly dressed in finery. He looked at his hands and saw they were clean, with a ring of precious stone on each finger. His wagon was a beautiful handcart, and servants now unloaded fresh food from the market from it, ducks and shrimp and vegetables and herbs of all kinds. He hired others to cut the stone and do the work. He stopped going to the village to have tea with his friends, and before long he went from being the simple stonecutter everyone loved and admired to an out-of-touch rich man even his servants and family came to dislike. One day the stonecutter looked out his window and saw a magistrate being carried in a sedan chair through the streets, accompanied by guards and servants, and everyone, the rich and the poor, had to bow as the magistrate passed. "That's what I need to become now," he thought. "A magistrate, so even people who don't like me must respect me and bow when I pass by." A wind blew in the window from the mountain, and suddenly his wealthy home was an official's palace. He was a magistrate, whose servants carried everywhere in a chair coated with gems. They bowed and respected him, but people also feared and hated him. He was more disliked now than when he was a rich merchant. One summer day, while being carried through town in his fancy sedan chair, he wiped the sweat off his brow as the sun was relentless and everyone was moving slowly and seeking the shadows. "That's what's mightier than a magistrate even," he thought. "The sun, it shines on the poor and the powerful. No one escapes its light and its heat." When he got home, he stood at the base of the mountain in his magistrate's garden and said, "Make me the sun." And suddenly, he was the sun. He saw the world from the heavens. He shone on the rich and the poor and the weak and the powerful. He was cursed by them all as he made work and travel difficult and burned crops in the fields. He thought he might be the sun for eternity when one day a huge cloud black as the unbroken night passed between him and the earth below. It rained and brought relief to the problems caused by the overbearing sun. And when the cloud finally passed and dissipated, he shone brightly down on the mountain's peak and demanded, "You shall now make me a storm front and powerful cloud." And so it was, and he blocked out the sun and caused floods. And very soon he felt an irresistible pushing at his back and noticed trees being uprooted and hurtling by him, and realized the force pushing at him was the wind. And so, as he sent a deluge down the mountainside, he ordered the mountain spirit to make him the wind, and instantly it was so. He blew through the rain and clouds, he blew roofs off houses and lifted up trees, he spun around in gales and tornadoes, and nothing could stop him, it seemed, until he eventually came to a mountain range, and the mountains were not bothered by his blowing. He blew an outraged roar to the heavens. "I must be now a mountain of stone." And just like that, as had been happening for so long, he instantly became a mountain of stone. The sun couldn't burn him. The storms and rain and wind raged against him but did no damage. He stood powerful and strong. Then one day, faintly on the wind, he heard a sound and listened closely. It grew stronger. He felt a sharp pain. What could possibly be harming me, he thought, a great mountain of stone? And the sound became more distinct, and another beam of pain rifled through him. And looking down, far below, at his stony roots and foothills, he saw the figure of a simple stonecutter.